A long time ago, before modern attack helicopters and high-tech rescue aircraft existed, helicopters were still a strange new idea. Most people did not even believe they would become useful in real military missions. But one small helicopter quietly changed aviation history forever. It was the Sikorsky R-4. This aircraft was not designed to fight enemies or carry weapons. Its main purpose was something very different and very important: rescuing pilots who crashed far away from their bases. During World War II, aircraft often crashed in jungles, mountains, or enemy territory where normal airplanes could not land. Soldiers on the ground sometimes needed many hours or even days to reach those pilots. Many injured airmen died before help could arrive. The R-4 helicopter showed there could be a faster way. In April 1944, an American pilot named Carter Harmon flew an R-4 helicopter deep into the jungles of Burma behind Japanese lines. A crashed crew member was trapped in a small jungle clearing with no safe escape. Airplanes could not land there and ground rescue teams were too far away. Harmon carefully lowered the helicopter into the tiny open space between trees, picked up the injured men, and flew him to safety. This became the first helicopter rescue in combat history. Around 130 R-4 helicopters were eventually built. They were small and simple machines, but they proved something powerful. Helicopters could reach places no other aircraft could reach. They could land almost anywhere and pull people out of danger quickly. That single rescue mission started a new idea in military aviation. From that moment on, helicopters became the perfect aircraft for search and rescue missions. For the next 80 years, almost every rescue helicopter mission around the world followed the same basic purpose that began with that small R-4 in 1944. A few years later, another helicopter started becoming very famous. This aircraft was the Bell H-13 Sioux. Many people remember it because they saw it in the popular television show MAS*H, where the helicopter with the round glass bubble cockpit became an iconic image on screen. But the television show only showed a very small part of what this helicopter actually did in real life. In the Korean War, the H-13 played one of the most important rescue roles in military history. When soldiers were wounded on the battlefield, time was the most critical factor. Before helicopters existed, injured soldiers often had to wait hours before reaching a field hospital. Many did not survive the long journey. The H-13 changed that completely. These helicopters flew directly to the battlefield, landed in small clearings, and quickly carried wounded soldiers to medical units. During the Korean War alone, H-13 helicopters flew more than 18,000 medical evacuation missions. Soldiers who once would have waited hours for treatment were suddenly reaching surgery within minutes. Doctors later recorded that survival rates improved dramatically because helicopters could move wounded troops so quickly. More than 2,500 of these helicopters were produced and used for medical evacuation missions. While the TV show made the helicopter famous for entertainment, the real history was far more important. The H-13 proved that helicopters could become flying ambulances, saving thousands of lives during wartime. This idea later became a standard part of military operations around the world. From that point forward, every modern military began using helicopters for medical evacuation and rescue missions. What started as a simple observation helicopter had now become one of the most life-saving aircraft in military history. By the early 1950s, military planners started realizing helicopters could do much more than rescue wounded soldiers. They could also move troops directly into battle. This idea changed the way armies thought about war on land. To make this possible, the United States Army introduced a new helicopter called the Sikorsky H-19 Chickasaw. Unlike earlier helicopters that mostly observed or rescued people, the H-19 was built to carry soldiers and equipment. In the Korean War, it proved something completely new. Instead of sending soldiers across dangerous terrain by trucks or on foot, helicopters could lift entire groups of troops and place them exactly where commanders needed them. In one operation, H-19 helicopters moved a full American combat unit while enemy fire was still active. This was not just an experiment anymore. It was a real tactical decision that showed how helicopters could transform ground warfare. Around 1,280 H-19 helicopters were built, and they were exported to more than 30 countries. Their success helped create the idea of air mobility, where helicopters became flying transport vehicles for soldiers in combat zones. Soon another unusual helicopter joined this new era of airborne operations. It was the Piasecki H-21 Shawnee, a helicopter with a long curved body that made many pilots joke it looked like a flying banana. Even though people laughed at its strange design, the H-21 helped prove another powerful idea. In December 1961, 33 of these helicopters lifted about 1,000 South Vietnamese soldiers during an operation called Operation Chopper. It became the first large-scale helicopter assault mission in military history. Helicopters were no longer just rescuing people. They were now changing how entire armies moved and fought on the battlefield. As helicopters became more common in military missions, engineers started experimenting with new designs to make them stronger, safer, and more useful in dangerous situations. One unusual helicopter that proved very important was the Common H-43 Husky. Instead of using a normal rotor design, it used two intermeshing counter-rotating rotors. This special design gave the helicopter incredible stability while hovering, especially in difficult situations like strong wind or fire. Because of this stability, the H-43 became one of the main rescue helicopters used by the United States Air Force during the Vietnam War. Its mission was extremely dangerous. Whenever an aircraft crashed at an air base, the H-43 crews would fly directly toward the burning wreckage, often while fuel fires were still exploding around the crash site. Their job was simple but very risky: reach the crash as fast as possible and pull the crew out before the fire became uncontrollable. Around 260 of these helicopters served at forward air bases in Vietnam, and they saved hundreds of lives during emergency rescues. For more than 40 years, the H-43 held the Air Force record for the highest number of lives saved per aircraft type. Around the same time, another helicopter was about to become the most famous military helicopter in history. The United States Army introduced the Bell UH-1 Iroquois. At first, the Army planned to use it mainly as a medical evacuation helicopter to carry injured soldiers. But within just a few years the situation changed. Engineers began adding rockets, machine guns, and powerful weapons to the helicopter. Soon the UH-1 was not only rescuing soldiers but also protecting them in battle. More than 16,000 of these helicopters were built, making it the most produced military helicopter ever made. Its loud two-blade rotor sound later became one of the most recognizable sounds of the Vietnam War. Before we continue, remember this moment in aviation history and stay curious, because the next helicopters completely changed how wars were fought. As the Vietnam War grew larger, the military needed helicopters that could lift heavier equipment and more soldiers at once. That need led to the creation of the Boeing CH-47 Chinook. Unlike most helicopters, the Chinook had two large rotors, one in the front and one in the back. This design gave it incredible lifting power. It could carry soldiers, vehicles, artillery, and heavy supplies across mountains, jungles, and rivers where trucks could never travel. When the Chinook first entered service in 1962, it already showed impressive strength, but over the years engineers kept improving it again and again. The modern versions can carry about 68% more payload than the original design from the 1960s. More than 1,200 Chinooks have been built and used by many countries around the world. Even after more than 6 decades, this helicopter is still flying and performing heavy-lift missions. Around the same time, another helicopter appeared that was designed specifically for combat. The Bell AH-1 Cobra became the first helicopter built mainly as a gunship. The military wanted a fast attack helicopter that could protect transport helicopters and ground troops. Amazingly, the Cobra was developed extremely quickly. From the moment the contract was signed, engineers built and delivered the combat-ready helicopter in just 23 months. It arrived in Vietnam in 1967 and immediately proved its power. The Cobra could carry rockets, cannons, and machine guns while flying low and fast over the battlefield. Even today, modern versions of the Cobra are still used by the military, showing how one powerful design can influence aviation for generations. As helicopter technology continued to improve, new machines began doing missions that once seemed impossible. One powerful example was the Sikorsky UH-60 Black Hawk. Engineers designed this helicopter with something very unusual in mind: survival during crashes. Earlier helicopters in Vietnam had shown that many accidents were fatal because the aircraft structure could not protect the crew. So the Black Hawk was built with a stronger frame that could survive extremely hard impacts. This design allowed the helicopter to protect soldiers even during serious crashes. More than 4,000 Black Hawks have been built, and today around 28 countries operate them for transport, rescue, and combat missions. Another famous helicopter that almost never existed was the AH-64 Apache. During its development, the program was cancelled several times because it was extremely expensive and complicated. But once it finally entered service, the Apache proved why it was worth the effort. During the Gulf War in 1991, Apache helicopters destroyed hundreds of enemy armored vehicles within the first day of fighting, something no ground force could achieve so quickly. As years passed, helicopters also became smarter with advanced sensors, radar systems, and navigation technology. Special operations helicopters began flying deep into dangerous areas to rescue soldiers or carry out secret missions. Some of these aircraft even flew operations that are still classified today. The story of military helicopters began with a small rescue mission in 1944, when a single pilot saved one injured man in the jungles of Burma. Since then, helicopters have rescued thousands of people, transported entire armies, and changed the way wars are fought. From simple rescue machines to powerful combat aircraft, helicopters have become one of the most important tools in modern military aviation. And the future of helicopters is still evolving, with faster designs, autonomous flight systems and technologies.